Hey guys, welcome back to Jason Unleashed. How's it going? I'm your host, Jason Carter. Thank you so much for watching. The weekend is here, and I'm excited to be here with you guys. Hope you had a fantastic week. On today's show, my boy Josh Mcbride is in the building. Josh is a host, lifestyle expert, content producer, writer, producer, journalist. I mean, you name it, this guy does everything, and he is simply wonderful. His new show, Simplified, is awesome. Premiered in April of this year, and you can see it on Only Good TV and also on his Instagram as well as his YouTube channel. But I'm gonna let him tell you about it. Let's bring Josh in. McBride in the house. Boom!
That song, that little intro you got there.
I know. I do one for everyone, and I feel like I give you like the Deborah Cox up-tempo version of it, Josh. But I do what I can.
That's the only tempo I'd like.
Hey, buddy, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Good to be here. Yeah, I've been watching you do these and excited that it's our turn.
It's our turn. It's been weeks in the making, Josh. You're booked and busy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, a little bit.
How are things going, man?
Things are good here.
Yeah. You're in Manhattan, New York City, yes?
Yeah, so things have calmed down a lot since the start of this whole thing now, for sure.
Right. Well, New York City, of course, as we all know, was a major hotspot for COVID. What's the vibe there in the city? What's the conversation amongst your friends?
Yeah, it's different. It's we don't go out anymore. We go to a park and we socially distance sitting in a park, or we're sitting outside at a restaurant. Luckily, we got that. We didn't get our gyms back yet.
Right.
We didn't get those back. We got our nail salons back. We got our barbershops back, but not everything. Not like you guys had everything back. We had nothing back.
And now it's a wrap on everything. We got the gyms back for 2 weeks. Look, you mentioned the nail salons, Josh. My crusty toes are screaming for a pedicure. I tried to get myself one, epic fail.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that New York is doing better. And you've been outside getting your own workouts in. We see you doing the squats.
We're squat for your life, honey. Like this is, you got to be outside doing it because it's not in here.
Right. I know home workout. Never in my life have I thought that home workouts would be the most difficult thing to do. And you know what? I don't do them. So there's that.
Yeah. No, it's hard to stay motivated indoors for sure.
It is. Josh, you are a busy guy your career. And I know you, but for those that are watching, Josh, your career has been awesome. You have appeared on everywhere from The Talk, Wendy Williams Show, The Today Show, HLN, several Celebrity Page TV. You were an intern at Entertainment Tonight. You have definitely grinded it out to have a career in this business. Now you're hitting us with Simplified, which we're going to get to in just a few, but take us to the beginning. You're from Boston, Mass.
Yeah.
Coming into this crazy industry, what made you take that leap?
That's a really good question. I think for me, it was like coming home every day watching TRL and watching Carson Daly do his thing. And was like, you know what? I think I can do that. I wanted something, while I don't think going to broadcast journalism school is bad, I just wanted something a little bit more that was different from that. So I went for marketing. Yeah. And then while I was in school, I was in school in Rhode Island, and I was really excited about, I wanted to live in New York City for a summer, or just to feel it out or feel what the vibe was. So I remember going to the city and interviewing for 4 different jobs, a couple different marketing jobs, but the last interview for an internship of the day was for Entertainment Tonight. And I walked in there and I was like, look, I'm going to be real with you. This is what I want to do. This is which is so funny. We have that connection there. And I said to them, this is 2009. So I was like, I want to work here. I want to learn. I want to be better. I'm a marketing major, but this is what I really wanted to do. And then, about a few days later, they were like, you've got it. So I moved to the city, and that's really where it started. I moved back home, was always in radio, worked in radio in high school.
Same.
It's so funny. We have very similar trajectories. After that, I moved back home for a year before I moved to the city for full time. And I was on air in Boston for a bit, and then came here and kind of just hustled here.
Yeah. Being on air, radio, what a lot of people don't realize about radio is that it's not easy. I think being on air on a radio station, or just on the radio in general, is the most challenging, because as a visual medium, people can rely on their body and rely on their looks and get by. But in radio, though, with strong comedic chops, if you have them, and connection to the audience through your spoken word is paramount, and that is like the hardest thing to cultivate from scratch, don't you think?
Yeah, and also remember, you have to remember people can't see you. I had a really mean teacher in college, and I was like, I want to be on the radio, and she was like, you have a face for radio, and I was like, you're kind of a bitch.
Right?
Yeah, it was always hard to like think about radio in a way that like context made such a difference, and if I
Hmm.
was smiling or if I was making a frown face while I was saying that, is like that really it almost you need to exaggerate it more on radio so you can hear my voice, even
Right.
more so than in person because you know that I'm not squinting or I'm not raising my eyebrows or making a frown face. So it was very different.
Yeah, but it's extremely different. But I think it's when you hone those chops and you really dive into that part of entertainment, that's where you see what you're made of, and
Yeah,
that's where like major. You mentioned Carson Daly, TRL kid myself, K Rock. I mean, some of the
yeah.
greats have started on air at some of the most legendary radio stations. So I think it's awesome that you went that route. But your hustle, Josh, is out of control, brother, out of control because of all the places you have appeared as a lifestyle expert and as also as a host and anchor for some really cool outlets. I mean, your grind going from radio interning and then being able to get yourself in these rooms. How did you do that? Because I think for a lot of talent, that's the hardest thing to do is getting someone to give you those opportunities
Yeah,
to
yeah.
show what you're made of.
Yeah, and I like to use the example for the talk. Like, I had wanted to be, it was called the Top Talker. They don't even have the segment anymore.
Right.
But I wanted to be a top talker for years, and I loved it. And so it was always kind of like this passed around no. And like, if you're getting passed around, like, chances are it's a no. Like, if you're getting
Right.
passed around in a way
Right.
that's like, we'll get back to you, we'll get back to you again. A couple weeks go by, another month goes by. Like, chances are it's a no. So what I did at that point was just like strengthen my my resume at that point and strengthen
Mhm.
my reels and figure out a way that like how do I get in that room and make them say yes. So for me, it was always just kind of being persistent, but also working on myself and creating
Right.
those moments for myself. So I got a job on this show called The Daily Buzz, and I was the East Coast correspondent on The Daily Buzz, and
Good stuff.
they they were under the CBS umbrella. So it
Hmm.
was kind of like I'm sorry, Pop TV where they aired was under the
Right.
CBS umbrella. So it just made sense. So at that
Hmm.
point, after having all this new footage and resume builder, they wanted to, they said, okay, well, this makes sense totally now. And it wasn't just about the CBS connection, but I had like really worked on my reel and my resume and figured out how am I going to get into that room. And at that point, I'd probably already done Today's Show and Wendy. So it's like, all right, he has some good credentials, but like, what else can we get? So at that point,
Yeah.
after I had that, it was like the talk came, and then I just did a Good Morning America hit for the first time, which has been like also a dream for the last so many years. This past week, actually.
Congratulations. It was dope.
Thank
It
you.
was, I mean, I watched it.
Thank
You're
you, my
welcome.
friend.
It was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's great. I mean, I think it's those stories that really resonate with people of in and out of the industry because we're all trying to get somewhere and make
Yeah,
the most of this time we have on this planet. So for to hear that you yourself were met with some no's, but you
totally.
persevered, and I think perseverance is what you absolutely have to have in this crazy ass business. Because if you're afraid to go back out there after the first 900 million no's, you're never gonna make it. I want to say what's up to people that are watching. Nina West is watching.
Hey, Nina.
Big T Mel, lounging with Tony, Bryce Eilenberg. Hey guys, thanks for so much climbing to the top from the Midwest. But let's talk about times where you didn't land the job you wanted, and how did you
Yeah,
pick yourself back up and keep
there's a
it
lot of
pushing?
those
Because
stories.
absolutely. But for you, what is one that sticks out the most?
Oh God, I mean, there's so many. There's been so many no's at this point. You know, and how many meetings have you got? Like, as hosts in this business, it's different. You know, it's different than an actor. We go to meetings and they look at our reels and our past footage and maybe test us. But it's not an audition. It's kind of like our network audition type of thing, the
Right.
network way or the show way of auditioning, and it's kind of backwards. It's really like getting to know a person, sitting down, and how many meetings you go to as generals. You're like, ooh, I'm gonna get that job. I'm gonna get
And
that
then
job,
nothing.
and you don't hear anything, and you hit up your agent, and if you don't have an agent, you're waiting for a LinkedIn message, and it's really like it doesn't go anywhere, you know.
I
So there's
know.
honestly having, and it still hurts. I mean, it really
It
still
does.
hurts, and
It
it's funny because
sucks.
everyone's like, it sucks. I get over it faster now, but there's still this point of like hearing no still sucks. But everyone's like, oh, you've heard it
Right.
so many times. Like, what do you mean it sucks? Like at this point, you really know that like you know that most people say no. And I always said like I heard this thing way back when like you know I was a child actor, so I heard this thing back then. It was like if you get 10% of the jobs that you go out for, you're lucky.
Yep.
As in like that's one out of every 10 jobs I'm lucky to get, you know? And it was like, Oh God. But now it's like, I don't really think about that. It's like, how can I focus on myself and recreate and really creating a space where I don't need to hear no, which kind of leads into the whole
Mm,
simplified thing.
boom. And
That's
that's
it.
where it is, Josh, because yes, okay, so simplified. I think you are so on the money in the fact about when people ask me why I do Jason Unleashed, is for that exact reason. I don't want to hear no anymore. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
no from a producer, an executive, a network about what the worth and what I bring to the table, what that can be. You're not going to tell me no because I own this. Simplified, launched in April.
Yep.
3 minutes of you breaking down how to wash your hands in coronavirus,
Yeah.
juxtaposing the Kardashians premiere with season 18 of the Kardashians. How do we feel about that? It's this
Yeah.
wonderful genius amalgamation of pop culture and helpful things. The genesis of this. Where did you get the idea?
Yeah, I kind of combined the two things that I do, and I didn't really talk about it a lot, but I worked with a lot of brands. My background was marketing. I actually set up Pop Chips when they were nobody in Boston when I was living there, and I was setting up Vita Coco when Rihanna wasn't the spokesperson back then. So I had this idea of like when I became a lifestyle expert of working with brands, and how do I talk about essential water on air and talk about how it's the best water and how I love it, right? So I combined the two, right? So giving lifestyle expert ideas of like, how do we talk about the best gifts for Father's Day? Or we just did an episode on like how to make the bathroom successful while you're crammed in a house with so many people and not like make it smell, or a New York City apartment, right? And then
Right.
with that came, and this has just been like since a lifelong thing. My brother and I always would do like in conversation, like a movie quote and be like, where was that from? Where was that from? And so this really took that of like, it took it off the ground of like, let's figure out that lifestyle expert work of like, creating the bathroom or how to grocery shop successfully and suggesting ideas on an app to use or a product that's really great or a place to go that can really help you with this idea, and then also inserting them with those pop culture references that everyone knows. So you've seen
Right.
everything from like Mean Girls to Bridesmaids to oh God, Dumb and Dumber. Like there's so many, and the
It's
good part is
genius.
like not a lot of people are like you might not get all of them, but I hopefully a few or one quote at least. Did I
Wait,
lose you?
oh, we're back. We're back.
Yep.
Okay, so you might not get all the references, but you might get. Continue.
Hopefully one or two of them. If you've seen Mean Girls, if you've seen Dumb and Dumber, I think we tried to tailor it to millennials, Gen Zers in that way of like, you might have seen Dumb and Dumber, but you may have not seen Mean Girls, or you may have seen Mean Girls, but
Mm-hmm.
not Dumb and Dumber. But at least if you're laughing and getting along, we try to make it funny. It's super lighthearted. It's super viral. So that's why we also wanted to create it of like, it was a way to make people laugh in the middle of all this. And also, it wasn't 10 minutes, so you're not investing time into, I'm not going to name the app, but an app that came out and you're watching those shows that
Right.
was like a 10-minute show, which no shade to them at all, because I think they're doing their thing. It's no shade at all.
No
But it's
shade.
also,
However.
however, but it's also not a 30-minute show where
Yeah,
I always feel like right now it's hard to get invested in something more than 5 minutes, right? And if
it
I
is.
am, I'm going to commit to it. So I'm going to say, okay, the day's over. I'm going to watch Netflix for an hour and I'm going to watch the last episode of Ozark. Okay, great, fine. But what if I'm on social? Like, I don't want to see something that's 10 minutes long. I can't invest 10 minutes. I'd rather invest 3 minutes and
Mm-hmm.
keep it pushing, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to sit down and watch an hour thing. So,
Right.
but
Well, and there we
still no
have it.
shade. But still no
No,
shade.
no, yeah, no. Look, listen, no shade. I know no shade, but people are saying the same thing across the board, so you're fine. The thing is, though, is that it's
Ooh,
been successful, and
I
you
like what
have
someone just
bit
said.
the
The
Vine
Vine
effect.
effect. I love that. Yeah.
What is the Vine effect? Educate
So
me. What is
remember
it?
Vine, the app. The app
Oh,
Vine
yeah,
was
yeah,
all
yeah.
about like 7 seconds, quick,
Right,
funny,
right,
hilarious.
right,
And
right.
that's, yeah, exactly. And she just said it too. Short attention spans, like 3 minutes is like, I don't want to invest more than 3 minutes, to be honest, unless I'm laying down with a cocktail and watching an episode of something.
Right. I thought the Vine effect was something new on Netflix I needed to watch.
No, nope, not that.
But simplified with Josh McBride, it rhymes. Hey, has been successful because now you're on Only Good TV, and it's
Yeah,
you and a myriad of other places, Prime Video, Amazon. I mean, you can simplify it, and as well as your social media,
yeah,
it is viral, and I think it's needed. It's great. I've learned some things. I watched them all. I've learned some things. So Josh, you're doing great. You're doing great work. Recently, I have been following your Instagram, and you have been reliving the splendor of some of your best moments in your career. I would say the last decade. You've interviewed some pretty cool people. and you've been in some pretty good
Yeah.
been at some in some pretty cool spaces. Looking back on your career now with COVID and everything that's happening, we're going to talk about BLM as well because you're definitely an amazing ally for BLM. Looking back on your career, do you wish you would have did some things differently? Like, what now that we've had time to reflect, what has that reflection been?
Oh, that's a really good question, a hard question. I don't like to have regrets, although I do.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know about having regrets as far as what I would have done differently. I've
Hmm.
always been a really hard worker. I
Yeah.
haven't really like I've always done. My father said it to me yesterday. He said, "You and your brother are very different. My brother's very type A, and he's a chiropractor and a doctor. And he's like, he likes to plan something in 6 weeks from now, and he's going to do one thing. You like to plan six things at a time." And I was like, yes, like I do. Like I
Yes.
can't do one thing at a time because I'm just like I'm going to get bored. So I've always had this. I'm going to do so many things at once, and that's how it's going to be. So I don't regret anything. There's more stuff that I want to accomplish and do, of
Mhm.
course. But right now, I'm trying to live with no regrets.
And that in itself, Josh, is success, because when you're able to be at peace with whatever has happened, I mean, you have no choice but to move forward and be at peace with things. But if you can authentically and holistically and really truly accept that, hey, my life has been this, but I have so much
Yeah.
more to go, that's successful, man. Because people
Yeah.
struggle with that even when they are hyper successful. I mean, Tamar Braxton today, of course, reports that came out that she was found unconscious. That's a report, an alleged suicide attempt. And here we look at someone who is very successful, but it doesn't always equate to I won't say the best life, but to happiness. To happiness. So
Yeah.
not having regrets I think is a wonderful thing. I'm trying to get there, man. So
Yeah.
kudos to you for being there already.
It's a hard place to get to. It is a hard place to
Yeah.
get to. And some days you just feel like shit and you feel like crap and you regret everything you did or somebody that you dated or somebody that you talked to once. But I don't like to, I always think about them as learning experiences and like, what did I
Hmm.
take away from that? Like that bad relationship. Well, what didn't I like for this next thing? Or that bad job that I went on? Like, should I have said something? I was in a job,
Right.
I was in a test audition at one point. And I was just talking about this with a friend. I hope she's not on here, but we were just talking about this. And the person I was testing with, said a derogatory comment to me
Hmm. Hmm.
in the test audition itself.
Ugh.
We wound up both getting the job, and we both worked at the place, but it was very uncomfortable because it was like, did that really just happen with all these people around? So like, when
Right.
it comes to it, but what's the takeaway from there? It's like I should have said something in that moment of like, sweetie, that isn't like, we don't say that. So
Right.
if anything, my regrets are that I wish I would have spoken up more for certain things in the moment versus sort of
After the.
thinking about that. And my New Year's resolution this year, which all of my friends know at this point, was I was a person that would get really upset about something or someone or some, an act or event that occurred. And my New Year's resolution was like, why am I holding on to that? If somebody
Yeah.
upset me, I need to be direct and say, here's what you did. Here's what I don't like. And that's been really, really like, it's like an experience that it's just, you don't carry it with you. And a friend said to me, she was like, you carry this with you. And then you put it onto me when you tell me the story about it. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
damn. So I'm affecting both of us now. That's not good for
Right.
either one of us.
Right.
So
Right.
by
Preach,
being able
Josh.
to release that and let that go is like, it's so hard because you have to address the problem head on, but you're not
Hmm.
going to sleep with it at night.
Yeah, I mean, and yes, bro, gospel,
Yeah.
Josh McBride. Dude, I feel that. But you mentioned learning experiences, and speaking up, what you've been doing right now as an ally has been incredible. I mean, the stuff that Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ plus, marginalized groups of people, you are not afraid to use your platform unapologetically and bring awareness to what's happening, how we can move forward, what's still not happening, what needs to happen, and also
Yeah.
educate us on things. Like, I've learned stuff about Black Lives Matter from your page.
Yeah.
And if that's not the definition of what an ally is, and I'm listen, for those watching, I'm okay to say that because people think because I am black,
Right.
I'm supposed to be the most woke. But the truth of the matter is that I'm not. Blackness is not a monolith. Blackness is not homogenous. We all move through the world differently. We all have different experiences in blackness. We all have different experiences in the LGBTQ plus community as well. So for you though,
Yeah.
you have not only taken your social media and educate us with Simplified, but your BLM content has been amazing as well. In New York City and amongst your friends, arriving at the decision to speak out. When did that happen? And also, it's not an easy thing to do. Getting the courage to do that, where does that come from? How did you muster that and cultivate that?
That's really another really good question because I don't know where that came from. I think it was always there. And I was talking to a friend the other day about this, and she was talking about somebody that a white friend that she has, a white male friend that she has, and she said, "Oh, it felt like he was very putting stuff on just to kind of be in the crowd and kind of doing something like that." And she was like, "Josh, years ago you had posted on your Instagram about 3 churches that burned down." Because they were set on fire, because they were primarily black churches, and they were set on fire by members of, the KKK. And everyone was talking about this church, and I think Italy it was, that burned down. Send money to the church. And for me, it was like, no, like, why are we worried about a tourist location when we're worried about what about our people at home, and our brothers and sisters at home? So, and the term ally is so weird to me because I don't feel like, I wish that we didn't need a term ally. I wish everybody thought the same. And I've always had a diverse group of friends from kindergarten up. I've never understood why there was inequality. I used to say, and I think I posted this on my page, I used to say like, oh, I don't see color. And I was like, no, that's an ignorant statement. And the reason why that's ignorant is because if I can see color, I can recognize injustice. Right. And I can recognize my privilege, right? And it takes a while, I think, for people to understand that, but also it takes a while for white people, for some reason, to get in their head of recognizing their privilege, even if they're like, well, I grew up poor and I didn't have dinner on the table. It was like, yes, but if you equate that to somebody else who is of color or a black person, they might not have dinner on their table either, and they're still set back, right? So like for me,
it's in addition to.
Right, and I never understood that, and I always thought that was really like, I just didn't understand it, and I've have a lot of friends, and this is often a conversation that comes up and we talk about it. And often I'm the white boy in the conversation, but not in a way that's a disrespectful way. It was kind of just like, oh, Josh gets it. How come others don't? And so that's always been my case of like, why don't others get it? Why can't people understand it? And it's really upsetting to me. And I watch everything and I try to read everything and take in perspectives on, I think it's hard when you just watch CNN. I'm not going over to Fox News, but if you just watch one thing, it's hard to get just one vision or one idea or one attitude about something. So for me, it's always been like, I've never understood why we all can't be equal. So I'm going to say something, and I don't care if the person's on here or not, but a friend's significant other was talking to me the other day. And oh God, I'm blowing everybody up on this thing. And
expose, baby.
It is. So, and it really just bothered me. So he's a white guy, and he had taken his kids through Washington Square Park. Washington Square Park, I don't know if you know, Jason, is down by.
I do. Yeah.
It's downtown, and it's super diverse and fun, and there's a water fountain there, whatever there is. So it's in Manhattan for those that don't know. And he had met up with us because he's dating a friend of mine, and said, I just walked through Washington Square Park with my kids, and we were heckled by black people on the way in. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I was waiting for the rest of the story, and he said to me, I have a tough time sitting here going BLM, BLM when I'm being heckled by black people. And Jason, I lost it. I lost it because he needed to get a check-in quick. And I said, oh, did you have a knee to your neck? Oh, did anyone take a gun out on you and shoot you? Oh, did anyone follow you? And none of these, and you're right. And it's that white privilege that I think that our white brothers and sisters need to hear also, of like, okay, so they were yelling stuff at you? Okay, I don't understand. So were you in harm's way? Were you, right. And for me, that it's a trigger for some reason that I am not black or of color. I'm lack of color, if anything. And Jason, it just irked me of like, how do you not see this? And I didn't know the correct response, but I really just really challenged him. And I think that was the best I could do in that moment, of ask those questions of like, did you feel threatened? Was anybody hurting you? Was there a knee to your neck, like George Floyd's neck? You know what I mean? So those questions.
Well, so did he articulate or elucidate what the heckling was? Like, what, because people interpret things as, okay, because again, like when people make statements as your friend, you as a journalist or a person who asks questions for a living, you're taught to ask the nuanced questions as you did. Right. Like, well, what all entails heckling, or how are you? Could you? It's not like you're gaslighting your friend and invalidating his feelings, but you're like, let's walk through this, because even myself, lately, I was in a conversation yesterday with someone who said the same thing about something happened, and they felt that they had been uncomfortably put in a position that they didn't want to be in by a person of color. Oop, you froze again, Josh.
Am I there? You didn't freeze on my end. Keep
Timeout. We're
going.
waiting for Josh to come. Hey, we're
I'm
back.
here.
We're back.
Okay, I'm here. I don't know what happened.
Okay, great. But I don't know. My internet's great today. I don't know what's going on. It could be because the wind's blowing to the west
Hmm.
today. Who knows? But in conclusion, I'm glad that you're able to have that conversation and spark that kind of and evoke some kind of emotion from him that will make him think more about what he experienced. Because I think that's what's the issue is that people, the knee jerk reaction is this has happened to me. This is being done to me, and yet we're not really stopping to think about what exactly is happening in that moment. So good
Yeah.
kudos for you, man. That's awesome. Well, again, I am so happy to have you as a friend and someone, and as an ally, because ally does sound weird. All these terms that have come out
Yeah.
are just like, I'm this now, okay, but the action behind it is what's important, and
Totally.
you being on the front lines and doing what you can is exactly what we're wanting people to do. Listen, ask questions, be available, be of service. So thank you for that.
But also challenging our other white brothers and sisters too, right?
Right.
So like challenging our white friends and asking questions, maybe not telling them how we feel, but saying, well, did you feel it in harm's way, right? Or
Hmm.
did you feel like you were going to get shot? Or did you feel like 6 cops were going to come over to you and put their knee on your neck? Or did you feel like, right? So like putting it on them, right? It's always asking like, how did you feel about the
Right.
situation? So it's not necessarily like, here's my thoughts, here's my
Yeah.
ideas, here's what I believe. We all know what we believe. But
Right.
what about asking the questions of like, did that make you feel uncomfortable? Were you in harm's way? So it's challenging them versus saying, it's kind of an easier way of doing the conversation and also hearing their perspective.
Right, right, because we have to also be open to hear perspectives that may be in dissent of our own or opinions that don't agree with ours. But that's where change happens. And at the end of the day, we're all freaking adults. We're all
Yep,
adults, and we're all able to we put our big boy draws on and keep it pushing.
totally.
Josh, oh my gosh, you have interviewed a lot of cool people. You have been able to sit across from some pretty notable and interesting celebrities and just people in
Mm,
general. Looking back at all those interviews, though, is there one that sticks out that's been like,
oh
wow, I
no.
did that? And I asked
I
that
hate
question.
this question.
No, I love this question because I have one. I have one person who I've interviewed that was just like,
Give me yours. I want to hear yours.
the one person I've interviewed that was pretty cool would have to be RuPaul. And I
Okay.
know it's on brand for me,
Yeah.
but here's why, is because growing up, 93, supermodel of the world, right? Being a little gay boy in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I had a long hallway in my home and I would walk up and down thinking I was Linda, Naomi, Claudia, Christy, all the models that she named in that song.
Yeah.
And then fast forward 20 years later, I'm working beside this iconic
Right.
individual and I'm able to sit across from him and he gets to see me in my house doing what I do best and celebrates me there. So it was just a full circle moment
Yeah.
with Rue that will forever be so important to me. So when I asked that question, I know how much that meant to me and I know what some of these interviews mean for talents like yourselves.
Yeah. I always kind of go with the same person just because they become such a good friend and I like to give her a shout out. But I'm just trying, like, I've had great interviews. I think one really interesting interview I always love doing is Spice. The Jamaican dancehall artist Spice. She's
Hmm.
on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta also. It's just
Yeah.
because from a cultural perspective, we grew up very differently. And a lot of people don't know her and a lot of white people don't know her. So it was like ingesting her culture into a mainstream show like the Daily Buzz or Celebrity Page where I worked, and it was like, who is this? Because white people might not recognize her. An easier one to go with that I kind of always stick to because we've become such close friends, and I can see a friend is watching that's going to know the answer to this is Candace Cameron Bure. She
Really?
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Really? Okay. Okay. Tell me why.
I was a Full House fan growing up,
Same.
and diehard Full House fan with my brother. We watch it every day, and we had an interview when I worked at OKTV back in the day. This was OKTV's television show, and I was like, I've never gotten nervous for an interview, never gotten nervous for an interview. And I said to her, the first thing I said to her was like, she showed up and I was like, I'm really nervous and I'm going to throw up, I think. And she said, if you throw up, just throw up that way, because she was sitting right here. So, and we just kind of hit it off and became really great friends, and still are great friends today. And it was just kind of, again, a full circle moment for me. Also, we had dinner right before all this happened in New York, and it was just us, and we were having this conversation about like having friends that don't necessarily agree politically, and that's
Right.
okay.
Right,
right?
because
And
she's
everyone
she's she's
says that.
conservative. Right, yeah.
She is conservative, but we do agree on a lot. And I'm not a conservative, but we do agree on a lot of social issues. So it was really interesting to uh, become friends with her, and we're actually very close friends. And I feel like I've learned a lot from her and learned a lot of the attitudes. And also, everyone always says like we're the most unlikely duo because we are. You know, we're completely other ends of the spectrum, but at the same time, we respect each other's opinions and ideas and thoughts,
Hmm.
which I think just makes a great friendship. Like I don't know if I can be friends with you if you're voting for Trump now, and she is not, from
Right.
what I understand. But it was kind of a full circle moment, but also a teachable moment for me.
Right. It's you always are going to be, and I find this to be true is that when you take the time to sit with someone who may be polarizing
Right.
and antithetical on a level that is digestible, not someone who's like hyper racist, hyper homophobic, nothing, but
Right.
someone who conservative political values or maybe conservative religious values. But when you take the time to sit and actually get to pick apart who they are, you would be amazed to find out the similarities you have with this person beyond
Yes.
just the layer
Yes.
of why you may disagree. So when you said Candace Cameron Bure, I was like, skirt!
Yeah.
DJ Tanner, really?
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome, though. That's cool.
But the conversation has always flowed, and we've respected each other's opinions. And no shade to her, like it wasn't the most interesting interview, but the takeaway from that interview was like, wow, we both can get along with people that are just not like us at all, you know. And that was
Yeah,
really insightful for me. Of like, I can sit with somebody that doesn't agree with me on everything, but I'm not looking for a hype man. I
right.
don't have. My friends are hype men, like hype men and women that I don't. We hype each other up, but I also want to hear difference of opinions. You know, and I want to hear other, why you think this was done right and I think it was done wrong, and then continue eating our dinner and talk about, our cats. You know,
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Josh, want to say what's up to Jet Set with Jeanette? She says, great and insightful talk. Also, wherever you are, Jason looks serene. I am outside of on my balcony in Los Angeles. I'm so grateful for this space because it's very calming and very serene. Josh, in this time of quarantine, where, as I said earlier, we've had time to reflect and go within, a lot of people are finding out or rediscovering or even discovering purpose. They want to be purposeful in life. They're discovering their purpose. For you,
Mhm.
Josh McBride, what do you think, or what have you felt your purpose has been as as of late?
Great questions, Jason. Really great questions. And shout
Oh,
out to Vicky
cool.
Courtright, who's in here, who was my first producer at OKTV, and now she's
Hey,
this
Vicky.
huge producer at TMZ. Anyways, my purpose. I thought about this a lot also recently, as far as like, there's a lot of time to think in quarantine, right? Like,
Right, right.
and I've thought about purpose as far as like, from a professional standpoint, I like to make people laugh. I like people to feel entertained. I think laughing, and which is why I created Simplified, because I wanted them to feel like they could watch something and forget about everything going on. And it was like someone just wrote that to me, being like, I forgot about everything because you were talking about the squatty potty and poopery in the bathroom episode that we just did. And it was like they had that moment of like, okay, I can feel free for a second and not around all this kind of crap that's happening. From a personal perspective, I think that my purpose is also to make people laugh and feel engaged, but also to be a friend. I think that like my heart is bigger than most, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I'm an emotional, I'm a physical touch and quality time, love language person. So I'm super there, and I'm super present, and I want to be present, and I want to be, hugging you if you're going through something. And when my friend feels something, I feel it. And I've always kind of surrounded myself with friends like that. And I don't know if she's still in here. I saw her in here earlier, but it was one time I was going through a really bad breakup and I was super upset. And my friend who was next to me on this couch starts crying. And it was like, okay, bitch, this is my moment. Like, don't you be crying. But I think for me, it's to being a friend and being a confidant and being a person that like, sure, like unload on me so I can help you, or I can make you smile, or I can give you a hug, or I can be a friend that you can lean on. I think for me that's been friends and family and just kind of having a warm heart. And I think that resonates through camera also
Yeah.
of very real. And my interviews have always been very, to the heart and who I
Hmm.
am. I wasn't ever putting on a face or intentionally being shady. It was just me, right? And I think that
Right.
that's really, and just to kind of do a circle back, and with our jobs is very hard because we have a set line of scripts or things that we have to get across from an overhead person, a producer, a senior producer, an executive producer. We have things that we're
Yeah.
told to say. And
Right.
sometimes it's really hard because in those situations you don't want to say them, or it's uncomfortable to say, or the talent you can feel is backing up. And one of, I think, my strong suits, if I do pat myself on the back, has been always like getting down on the level of like, what's up? Like, tell me what's going on, and figuring out how are we going to vibe and make this look good and feel good for both of us, really. And really, it's on you in that I'm going to try and do my best to make you feel good, because you've gone to 75 interviews today. I have not. This is my first time with you, and how am I going to be how am I going to be understanding for you? So I think for me, it's always been like that, in a way of friendship and family and relationships.
I love that.
Lean on me and make you feel comfortable.
Right. And I would agree. It definitely comes through in your interviews, and those qualities and that energy is the reason why people like Oprah and Wendy Williams and everyone who knows their audience, but also has an intrinsic connection to who they are as a person and depth. That's the reason why they're so successful. So Josh, I mean, the sky's the limit for you, man. Simplified's out now, you guys. We can watch it on Only Good TV. What days?
Yes, Only Good TV Mondays. Oh God, I think it's Mondays. Only Good TV Mondays. We launch Wednesdays now on our channels. There's a YouTube channel, or if you just go to simplifiedwithjoshmcbride.com, you can find everything there, and you can find all the episodes in the past. But Only Good TV is going to be running them. And also, we're going to be airing on the Daily Flash, which is a syndicated national show, changing times and markets. I don't know what market. For what time?
Dude, I mean, like, the news, you're like a deluge of, like, and tomorrow Simplified's going to be on Good Morning America. It just keeps coming. I love it.
Also, we're coming to Cheddar also.
I know. Mogul here, everyone. Mogul, absolutely. Josh Mcbride, it has been awesome to connect with you on Jason Unleashed today. And I wish you all the best. You're incredible. Keep doing amazing work. And you have my support, and everyone watching support. They're celebrating you. And, dude, like I said, sky's the limit, man.
Thank you. I appreciate this. This is nice. This is fun.
You know, I do what I can outside here in Los Angeles.
That's a green screen.
It's actually.
I know.
Look at my ratchet setup here, man.
Well
Some
done.
BTS. No, bro, this is trial and error makeshift days, man. And yeah. All right, man. Look, you have a great weekend, and Josh, we'll talk soon, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.